home building is one of those things where if you take the time to train your production manager who can train your framer, who can train your lumber supplier, you can get an efficiency that kind of permeates through the organization. At some point during the process, there's going to be a misunderstanding, right? You're going to think that it's like this, I'm going to think it's like this. And so I always say, to be kind of set the expectation is that's going to happen. There's a big difference between what I qualify for and what I should be paying for, right? I mean, it's very easy to be starstruck. This is supposed to add value to your life. It's not supposed to be the house you can afford. It's supposed to be the right house for you and your family. If you're thoughtful about it and you have the opportunity to touch the customer in a meaningful way, that is an easy thing to say. In 12 months, 11 months, sometimes in 2 months. Heating and cooling causes things to expand and contract.
And as the house sits here and kind of settles into final position, I mean, it's going to happen.
If it doesn't do that, something's wrong. If it does do that, like with concrete, if you don't have the stomach for it, you should buy a house that's had doors open and closed 1,000 times. If we can make the reader go into their first time buy, having read the book, and behave as if it's their second or third time they went through the process, I think we will do an enormous service to that customer. I think we'll do an enormous service to that builder, and consequently, I think do an enormous service to our industry.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Your Project Shepherd podcast. One of the main reasons that I started this podcast 3 years ago was because I saw so many people making really bad decisions when it came to building a custom home or remodeling in their home. And as the podcast has evolved, we've kind of taken a shift to have a big industry focus as well. And so I'll add to that so many builders also make bad decisions when it comes to building those dream homes for their clients. And so I've made it our mission here at this podcast to try to serve both communities and really to have a big focus on education, teaching people how to do things the right way, giving advice on how to make the best decisions in that home building journey. So I get really excited when I have other people, especially people who are in my circle, who also have a heart for that and who also want to do that same thing. So today's guest is a friend of mine. He serves on the Custom Builders Council board at the GHVA with me. He's a builder here in Houston, and he has just released his own book entitled From Vision to Completion, A Guided Journey Through Home Building's Key Decisions. And I'll read the brief blurb that they have on Amazon. Hopefully I won't give away too much here. So the Amazon blurb, and maybe this is on the back of the book as well. But From Vision to Completion is your guide to turning the dream of a home into reality. More than a behind-the-scenes look at building, it's a roadmap for navigating the challenges, decisions, and opportunities that shape the places we live. With decades of experience, David Herzog shares lessons learned from guiding clients from concept to completion. Inside, you'll discover how to stay true to your vision while adapting to challenges, balancing ambition with financial responsibility, setting realistic expectations, and solve problems with confidence. Create a finished home or a project that leaves a lasting impact. So, without any more delay, I'm going to introduce my guest today, David Herzog.
Well, thank you for having me.
David,
appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome. He's a builder, a freshly minted author, my friend, and an all-around awesome guy. So, and I should also mention that it's your second time on the podcast.
It is. I'm very excited about it. So
I'm really glad to have you back. And new book, exciting.
A new book. It is exciting. It was a lot of years in the making. And so when we finally got it done, we were super excited. And then it went bestseller, which is even more exciting. But the main reason for the book is we're a very standard operating procedure kind of company. And that, measure twice, cut once. If you set the right example, you'll have less rules. But, home building is one of those things where if you take the time to train your production manager who can train your framer, who can train your lumber supplier, you can get an efficiency that kind of permeates through the organization. In the final analysis, the customer is so much better served if everything flows very nicely. The one place we never could touch is the future buyer. There was no way to put them through a training program before we met them to have them behave properly, if I could say that. It's kind of rude. But, all of these buyers, after building thousands of houses, it's amazing to me that it's fundamentally the same process. You buy the lot, you pick the colors, you build the house. You would think after thousands of efforts that it would all be the same for all of the customers. And if you can satisfy one, you can satisfy them all. But they all come to the process with different experiences and from different places with different attitudes. Some people have half glass, full, half the glass is empty, that kind of thing. And so I thought the only way that we'd be able to reach those folks is to put a book out there and then to put it on our website. And so when they're looking at potentially making a purchase from us, maybe they would see that, maybe they would read it, and the experience would be better, not just for us, but for them. The whole goal ultimately for us is raving fans. I'm like you do, I'm sure. We meet our customers in the grocery stores or at a baseball game, and and it's nice when they come up and give you a hug.
You don't have to avoid them in the grocery store.
You don't have to avoid them in the grocery store. And the better job we can do at setting expectations, because it's a messy process. We build this stuff outside. The happier they're going to be. And the happier they're going to be, the happier our trades are, the happier our people are, the happier my wife will be when she bumps into them at the dry cleaner. And so what we do know is that most of the people that we've built houses for that are transitory, that have done this 3 or 4 times, have a completely different experience than the person who does it the first time. And it's often, for someone who's done it 3 or 4 times and is willing to do it again, they've got a pretty good handle on it. For someone who's done it a couple of times and had a horrible experience, they generally will buy something finished. And so we thought, how do we get the person who's not done this before to come into the program with the right expectations so that we can satisfy them so that they will enjoy it to the highest level of potential enjoyment that we can do. So the book is basically, we're going to sit down at a coffee shop and we're going to just, start from the beginning. There's a couple big things that we have to figure out. The financing is a big deal. But it's really a blessing to be able to build a custom home and to have it done exactly the way you want. I mean, it's a blessing to live in a home, to own your own home. And so it really is on us to not squander the opportunity to make that as magnificent for them as we can. Yeah. And that's the origin of the book. It's a long answer. Sorry about that.
No. So as you said, like we have a process, like we know how we build a home, how we need to build a home. We have our steps lined out. We've hopefully trained our staff, in turn trained our subcontractors. So we have a defined process, right? Homeowners, this is probably the first time many of them have done it. Some of them may have done it before, as you mentioned, but they approach it totally differently. It's everyone's mind works differently. Everyone's personality is different. Everyone has different things that are important to them. And so they all take their own approach, right? So we kind of need to systematize for the customer, these are the next steps, right? Like just lay it out for them. This is the best process to give you the best experience. Is that right?
Absolutely. We always tell our customers, or I always say this to them. I always say, at some point during the process, there's going to be a misunderstanding, right? You're going to think that it's like this. I'm going to think it's like this. It'll be a failed effort on my part to transfer the knowledge, or you may have inferred it improperly. But either way, 2 people spend too much time together, they'll find a misunderstanding. And so I always say, to be kind of set the expectation, is that's going to happen. And when that happens, I will be right. And the reason that I know I can say that with certainty is that we've done this thousands of times. So if something's supposed to be plumber level and you think it's not, you're probably not correct. But I do have to take responsibility for having you not know that yet. And when we find that issue, when that issue arises, it'll be one of those times when I say, remember at the beginning of the process, I told you we were going to stumble across something and you were going to think it was left and I was going to think it was right, and we were going to come together and reason together. And most likely it was going to be the way that we do this over and over and over. Usually it gets a little bit of a chuckle. And then almost always they'll say, I know you're going to say that eventually we were going to have a problem, and now we found the problem, and it's just so much more solvable. They come to that issue, they want to tend to, they want to understand. It's their right for sure, but they come to it in a different, almost collaborative, like, I know you told me this was going to happen, rather than with pitchforks and torches, ready to kill us all. And so that is why we wrote the book, to try to set that stage. And we also talk about things like, the financial component of it. There's a big difference between what I qualify for and what I should be paying for, right? I mean, it's very easy to be starstruck. It's very easy to say, I love this so much, I will figure out how to afford it later because the mortgage guy says I can afford it. We have kids, we have vacations, we have potential goals for early retirement. There's all other competing interests with the money that it takes to live just in general. And so one of the things in the book is to take inventory of all of the things that have value in your life before you go into this home purchasing mode, so that when you go into that expectation of just because I can afford $1 million, if I buy it $775, my life effectively doesn't change and I get this beautiful house. You will need a new car someday, even if your car's paid off. And so it's one of those things where we try to remind the potential customer that life will get in the way. This is supposed to add value to your life. It's not supposed to be the house you can afford. It's supposed to be the right house for you and your family.
And you don't know, as you go through the process, you don't know like what else you might want to go ahead and add to it, right? So if you leave yourself some margin there, if you want to go ahead and do the pool now, you're not already sitting at the top of what you can afford because you've done some good planning up front. And so
that's exactly
give yourself some margin to upgrade the appliances, add the pool, do nicer landscaping, whatever, right?
And that's a profound point, because I mean that kind of is the cycle. If a thoughtful, I don't know if that's the right word to say, but this is supposed to be collaborative, right? We're supposed to put our arms around our customers and do the right thing for them always. And we know, just like you said, I mean, it just came front of mind to you. We know that when we do this, as this process goes through, they're going to start looking after they buy the house at what cabinets they might get, or wow, I didn't know Wolf was a product, right? And if we don't help them from the beginning to navigate that process, they can spin their way into trouble. And so, and that's why we say up front in the book, let's think about that really, really hard. I think one of the other things is that, the nice neighborhood versus the big house is a big one that we see a lot. The nice neighborhood costs a lot more than the big house might cost you in a different neighborhood, right? And school districts. There are a couple things that are non-negotiable. And most of the non-negotiable things have value. And most folks can't afford all of the non-negotiable things, right? And what's non-negotiable for me might be different than what my wife thinks is non-negotiable.
Right.
And so, if we want to make sure that we're going to stay at $800,000, we better make sure that $800,000 includes our collective non-negotiables. Because if we bought at $800 to fill my non-negotiables, my wife's going to get her way at some point, right? You're going to be forced into a judgment that's not great for you necessarily.
Yeah. So by working, by the builder and the customer working together from the beginning to figure out what those non-negotiables are, and say, okay, on this list that you've given me and your wife's given me, your combined list, how many boxes can we check? We probably can't check all the boxes, but how many boxes can we check to keep you within what you want to spend and what you can afford to spend?
Absolutely. And then the other things are just the process. It's rough. I mean, it takes a long time. It's out in the cold.
Or the heat.
The heat, yeah, the rain, the freezing this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And not everyone on every construction site behaves. And sometimes some folks cuss. Sometimes the music's too loud. Sometimes kids jump the fence and break the windows. Sometimes the framer puts a window in the wrong spot. I know that's going to happen. That's going to happen. It's an interesting thing. Back in the day, when I was in Maryland, all the houses were very colonial. So we had shutters on every house. And I thought it would be a great idea that when we custom painted the front door, that I would custom paint the shutters to match. So if you wanted a frizzur'd front door, rather than order light blue pre-stained shutters, we would paint them. So I would buy them primed. And I thought it was a great thing. Well, not almost every time, a ton of times, way too many times, customers would drive out and check the process on the weekend, and they'd see the primed shutters, which would be black, and they would call the sales office and go, "Hey, what are you trying to do to me? What else is going to go wrong if you can't even get my shutters right?" And so now I always knew we were going to get their shutters right. Our salespeople, the painter, of course, knew they were going to. The customer didn't. And I remember thinking, and that's a laydown one. That one's easy. How many other opportunities is there for us to scare the hell out of our customers? We had a customer one time pull the stakes out of the ground. We staked the house. We had 10-foot overdigs because we were building basements. They went out there and measured it. It was 20 feet wider because of the overdig. And they pulled the stakes out of the ground so that we didn't accidentally misdig the house. And and I tell that story a lot to our customers, because if I can make you comfortable that we're going to get the staking right, and that just count to 20 and eventually the shutters are going to be painted fissured, and I can comfort you up front and let you know that we know what we're doing, and share a couple of items that are along the process that might lend to some confusion if you're not expert, then I can, for the most part, calm most of the process. If I can make you comfortable with the shutters and the stakeouts, I can make you comfortable with the fact that if I put the window in the wrong place, it doesn't matter, because it's going to be in the correct place by the time you move in.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is just the customer understanding what the next step is in the process. They're scared or they freak out because they don't know what's about to happen, right? So part of that is just communication between the builder and the client. It's the project manager maybe keeping the schedule updated, maybe making sure that the contract is right and the specifications are outlined, right? It's all the things that we have to do to let the customer know what the next step is, what the process is. And then once they can see the process and they can see that you're following the process, they gain a comfort level and a confidence that, hey, David's team's got this. Yeah. I see the next item on the list is this. I know that they're not going to drop the ball on that. A lot of it's honestly boils down to communication and being able to clearly state what the next step is going to be.
100%. The other part in the book that we address is, what's a title company? What's a realtor do? What's a discount point? And we don't go into great depth. It's not a mathematical book or anything like that. But for some of the things that are in our vernacular on a regular basis, it can be frightening things to customers who don't know anything about any of this, right? And so what we try to do is, almost in a cartoonish way, say there's literally a story in there about a customer, their title company, their realtor, and their mortgage player. And they bought discount points to make, there's a little bit of a story in there. And what it does is it's just enough to highlight, this is what this guy does, this is what this guy does, this is what this guy does, and this is what this guy does, or gal. And so, and in these buckets of responsibility, you'll find answers to your questions in bucket A, bucket B, bucket C. So you'll have a place to go so that it's less abstract. It's because it really is. I think our industry has done a pretty good job. If you get the right folks, a good mortgage person is going to do a great job with your mortgage. A good title company is going to make sure that everything is fine for you. A good salesperson is going to keep the builder honest, keep people on schedule, make sure that the documents are all filled out properly, and that everything that you and the builder agreed upon is documented to protect both of you, because people do misunderstand things. And then to help them, comfort them along the way. And so if you can get all those folks all singing in the same tune, for the customer, that's just the greatest thing in the whole wide world. But part of it, I think, was the customer just doesn't know who those players are. So we put that in there as well.
Yeah. understanding, again, understanding the process is huge, and that's, it seems like that's what a lot of the book is like, hey, here's this big scary process. Let's give you kind of an overview, a synopsis of what to expect as you go through this. I think a lot of people who have had bad experiences in the past, you mentioned people who've been through this 2-3 times in the past. The people who have had a bad experience are going to come in with a totally different mindset. A lot of time they're going to come in suspicious or wary or untrusting or whatever. A lot of that that bad experience usually came from not because the builder necessarily did a bad job on building the house. They weren't clear with their communication. They weren't able to explain the steps. Again, I go back to communication because it's such a big thing. Like when people are laying down a large amount of their own hard-earned money,
Yeah.
$1 million, $2 million, right? They want to know where the money's going. It's just natural, right? It's like you write somebody a check for $50,000 for a car, like you expect to see a car show up in pretty short order, right? So when people give you their money, they can't see things happening, or they're not being communicated with, they're going to naturally be wary of that process, right? So I think a lot of them come from a situation where the previous contractor they worked with didn't have the systems and processes in place to effectively communicate the process. The actual end product may have been okay, but just kind of the customer experience through that journey wasn't good.
And you think about it, some of it is because the builder might not know how to interact. Some folks are better at customer service than others. Some folks are more empathetic than others. Some builders have had bad experiences with some customers, and then when you're a customer that reminds them of that last customer, it works both ways, right? We're all supposed to be kind to each other.
Sure.
But I walked through a friend of our house in River Oaks. Magnificent house. It was a new build. They had it built by a reputable builder around here. We know him. And so we had a Christmas party there. They'd been there, I guess, maybe a year or whatever. And so we're at the Christmas party and marveling at it. It's really, really, really nice. And so I'm like, run me around. And he would say, come here, look at this. And we go in the dining room, and where the crown molding came together, the caulk it's a year old. It happens, right? And he's like, look at that. Yeah, I called my realtor. It's not structural. And I'm like, wow, there's a massive disconnect here, right? So in the book, we say specifically that, your house is going to settle it. His house he did not need to make that phone call to make sure that his house wasn't going to fall down. But how could he possibly know, right? He's an oil and gas guy this is the first house he ever built. How could he not, And so, and it just reminds you that it's if you're thoughtful about it, and you have the opportunity to touch the customer in a meaningful way, that is an easy thing to say in 12 months, 11 months, sometimes in 2 months, or in Texas especially. That's just heating and cooling causes things to expand and contract.
And as the house sits here and kind of settles into final position, I mean, it's going to happen.
If it doesn't do that, something's wrong. If it does do that, like with concrete, your concrete guys will tell you there's concrete that hasn't cracked, then there's concrete that is cracked, and the concrete that hasn't cracked just hasn't cracked yet. Yeah. All concrete will get it. But if you don't share that story, when they get a little stress crack somewhere, they think, oh no, this is a major, major thing. And so they lose sleep over it. Their wife is upset with it. They're upset with their builder, and they have been robbed of their ability to just completely enjoy what was such a magnificent thing. So I literally spent an hour walking through the house going, oh my God, oh no. And when we got done, he was like, thank you. Right? Can you talk to my wife? I almost said her name. And so that's another thing that we say in there. When you get to the end, all of these things do happen. It's supposed to happen. Please don't be surprised by that. And there's a process for that. We know it's going to happen, and we know we're going to fix it.
Going back to your concrete comment, I had an old concrete guy tell me one time, son, there's 2 things about concrete. It's hard and it's going to crack.
Right, exactly, right? Yeah, and if we share that with our customers, when it cracks, they'll go, yep.
Yep.
About time.
Yeah. So
rather than my hair's on fire.
yeah, I mean, one of our standard things to tell clients when they move into a house and we're walking through kind of commissioning the house and handing it off to them, it's like, hey guys, we know that you're going to see some caulk separations in your crown molding and your door casing and your baseboards. We know it's going to happen. We have a process for that. Yep. 10 months from now, we're going to reach out. You've got a 1-year warranty on fit and finish on this stuff. 10 months from now, we're going to reach out to you, and we're going to say, let's schedule a walkthrough.
Yep.
Let's go through here, make a punch list together. We'll send a guy. We'll get it fixed. Sleep well, right? And your driveway, you know what? It's a driveway. It's concrete. It's outside. It's in Houston. You're going to see some cracks. Yep. It's normal. Don't freak out. We're not going to replace the driveway.
It's funny. We've got this thing called the answer book, and so. And we just, as it's been years now, so it's pretty thick. And the goal there was every time we get a question that we go, that's a reasonable question, we should put it in there and put the answer in there. And so, your drywall, I mean, your grout caulks, there's just so much stuff that, like my mother would not know, and so I personally think a lot about this is my mother. How do I make sure my mother doesn't freak out when she sees something, and we always say it's all going to happen. And some people have the constitution. I say this I speak to every customer before they move in, before they contract, and because we primarily build specs. And so I like to make sure that it's a good fit. And I always share with them, not everybody has a constitution for this. This is not a new home. These drawers that are all literally been made, custom built on this site for this house. No one's ever opened them except for the people that built them. Versus if you buy a drawer from a cabinet company that have been tested and opened and closed 100 times, right? So you're going to start opening doors and opening drawers and closing shower doors. And all of a sudden, one of them's not going to close right. Absolutely going to happen. If you don't have the stomach for it, you should buy a house that's had doors open and closed 1,000 times. Usually if you say that, they'll chuckle about it. And usually when they do find the door that for some reason is sticking a little bit, they'll start with, yeah, you told me. Can you come fix it? Mm-hmm. And that's music to my ears. That means they're not upset. They understand, because we will, as I know you do, we fix everything that's legitimate. It doesn't cost us anything. Our trades are it's already in the suit, right? Yeah. If something breaks in the first year, you're going to go over there, you're going to fix it. So we are perfectly aligned, as most home builders, with making sure that type of item gets remedied for them and going forward. And so, and when they know that, it makes a big difference. They're less suspicious. They quit looking for problems as if there's a solution for them, a reward for them. And everyone's happy. Yeah. Our production guys are happier.
I like the idea that you said you think about it like how would my mom react to this or whatever, right? I think that's a good idea. Like start calling it the mom test or the grandma test, right? Right. Like how can I distill this information to something that mom could understand, or how can I, set this up so mom wouldn't freak out if she came across this situation. Like it's basically just putting yourself in the customer's shoes at the end of the day is what it is, right?
It is. And I think that, I'm a big seminar guy, and I've been doing this a long time, and I've been to just about every seminar maybe ever in the United States. And we hired this guy. I was at a seminar. I was in Las Vegas at the IBS years and years and years ago. And he was talking, we actually hired him. He came in to train our sales folk. We had a sales team, probably about 25 back then. And to manage the customer interaction when there's a problem. And then on the East Coast, we do a lot of basements. We don't do basements here in Texas. And on flat lots on the East Coast, when you put a basement in, frequently they put in what they call an areaway, which are steps into the basement. Mm-hmm. And so it happens. If you build 300 homes a year like we did, every once in a while, those steps end up on the wrong side of the house, right? And there's really not any going back. And so it's a terrible thing. So you have to offer the customer an option, and that is, you want to move lots? Do you want your money back? Can you live with this? And so the idea was we would train our salespeople to work with the customers to put it in perspective. Most times, things like that, they're indifferent to, except for the fact it's different than what they were told, right? And so if they're indifferent to it and we can calm their nerves, fall on your sword. You made a mistake, but if it doesn't affect you, or if you don't care, then let's keep going. You picked this lot for a reason, right? And his point was, if I can be empathetic enough and train my salespeople to be empathetic enough to solve that, I have now trained my customer or my salespeople to solve the shutter thing, the window in the wrong place thing, right? It's the same process. And it really is about being forward up front. When you're wrong, say you're sorry, admit it. If there isn't a solution, discuss how difficult it is. But if you know that this is going to be a little complex and there's a potential for problem, and our team is prepared to do that, and we can prepare our customer for if that happens, most of the time it works. Most of the time everyone's okay with it. And but it's all about, this is different than what you said. It might be better, but it's different. So I've got a problem. And if I've got a problem as a customer, I have a problem as the builder, right? And if I can't solve that, then I have somebody who's not a raving fan. And that is a massive problem for me. And so this book, the idea, hopefully, will help us better ensure that we continue to create raving fans.
I like the idea, you mentioned the thing about it may be something that's better, but it's different, right? It's like we as a builder know that this is a better product, but the customer is kind of raising their hand or complaining because it's different than their expectation, right? That can sometimes be a tricky thing, honestly. Like we've had a similar situation where, like, hey, we originally spec'd X brand of drawer slide or X functionality of a drawer slide. Well, we found something better. We swapped it out. We just made a substitution. And they're like, wait a minute, this was supposed to be that.
Right.
We're like, yeah, well, we switched it to this. It's better. They're like, no, I want the other one. I heard that one's better.
Right.
Right. I'm like, so you have to be able to. Well, first of all, I think that you should let them know up front that you're making a change. That's the best way to do it. But it's being able to frame it, to explain, to set their mind at ease that it's going to be okay. This is a better solution. Here's why it's a better solution. At the end of the day, it's kind of like managing expectation is just a big part of that.
I was driving. This happened yesterday. I was just driving. As I do, I like to just drive by the jobs and just put my eyes on them. Don't necessarily get out all the time, but just, make sure everybody's there, make sure everything's fine. And there was a realtor with our sales folks, with our production manager, walking around one of the houses. And I went, oh, maybe a potential customer. Well, I love that. So I pulled over, I got out, went and introduced myself. Most of the time, the customers are very happy to meet the builder. I think there's a security in there, a comfort in there. Let's meet him and make sure he's trustworthy. Look him in the eye, and I love doing that. And so I get out and we start walking. And as we're walking on the house, the wife said on this particular spec, it's got Hardy on the two sides in the back, Hardy plank, which, as you know, is one of the best products in the history of mankind. And so she said something about the siding. And so he said, yeah, why did you put siding there? And I said, well, that's Hardy. And we had a discussion about what Hardy is. And as we're talking about it, the agent is on her phone. Well, she had chat GPT'd Hardy plank and went, oh, well, does this Hardy plank? And then just started asking. Well, the answer was that to every one of her questions, does my Hardy plank, is it the same as the Hardy plank that she pulled up with the 50-year warranty and all those other kinds of things? And the answer, of course, is, well, yeah. And then they went, oh, okay. Oh, that's great. And then we moved on. And it was just one more example of, had I not been there, and it's not about me, and I'm not saying that, but it's one of those dopey things where they put their hands on siding and all of a sudden, for a second, thought the house was maybe compromised. And then with 2 full sentences of explanation, they were like, oh, this is hard, and then they felt fantastic about it. And it to your point, it's just about sharing, explaining and letting them know exactly what they're getting. But it's just impossible to know when they're walking through our homes what they see and how they infer what they see. unless we have a communication with them, which most of the time we don't get to have that opportunity. We certainly don't get an opportunity to cover every one of their concerns or every one of their, they just won't share them. There's not enough time.
Yeah.
But if you can create an environment, which is what the book is making an effort to do, of saying overall, expect this, then hopefully we'll calm the nerves for a broader set of issues than just the ones that they're focused on.
Yeah. Give me one big takeaway that you think a homeowner is, or that you hope homeowners are going to gain from the book. And then give me one big takeaway if you're somebody in the industry, a builder or somebody in the construction industry, that you can take away from the book.
Great question. Zig Ziglar, I'm a couple years older now, and I don't know that most of the folks at your audience will all know who Zig Ziglar is, but Zig Ziglar is one of the greatest salesmen in the whole wide world, greatest sales trainers in the whole wide world. And I often say if it weren't for Zig Ziglar, I might be pumping gasoline to make a living. But Zig Ziglar, in the day, in his industry, he used to go door to door, city to city, selling pots and pans. That's tough, right? And one of his goals and what he always taught was you interact with that customer, and some of those customers are going to slam the door in your face, and some of them are going to invite you in warmly. But as a person who lives and resides in an industry, which is necessary for that salesperson to feed his family, you have to do the right thing for your business, maybe first, your industry, to take care of your own private business. And his point was never leave a customer in a way that makes it more difficult for the vacuum sales guy to show up next. We don't want to leave a taste in that customer's mouth to where she slams the door on the vacuum cleaner sales guy. We want our industry to be respected and appreciated, and he wanted that customer to say, I don't need any plates, but I'm not going to be offended if somebody comes over here and tries to sell me a vacuum cleaner because I think I need a vacuum cleaner, right? It's helpful. So the idea of the book is to help, whether they're our customers or your customers or customers that are going to be buying a condo in Florida, to accept our industry and understand, to try to make it less abstract and to try to make it more comforting, to have them have if they understand great question. I think if we can make the reader go into their first time buy, having read the book, and behave as if it's their second or third time they went through the process, I think we will do an enormous service to that customer. I think we'll do an enormous service to that builder. And consequently, I think do an enormous service to our industry and make it easier for the vacuum cleaner sales guy to perform their service for that customer.
Absolutely.
That's the overall goal of the book.
Absolutely. I mean, I tell people all the time that after we interact, if you buy from me, work with us, great. If you don't, that's okay too. I hope to leave our conversation having given you some education on the process, the industry, help you make the right decisions, and take that information, go to the next person, and make a better decision.
Yep. That's our obligation as industry leaders, and I think that's one of our primary functions as home builders, I think.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I love serving with you on the board at GHBA and the CBC. I think that's what our association, I think that's what we are there to do, is to make the industry better overall. So at the end of the day, it's better for the consumer.
Yeah. And I think that's what you do here. I mean, I've watched every one of these, of course.
Thank you.
And this is enormously helpful. And you're doing the same thing. You're reaching out to not just guys like us that are friends of yours and in business, but customers will see these things, trade partners will see these things, lenders will see these things. This helpful information permeates through society, and where that society connects with our industry, this makes it better for everybody. So I want to thank you for this too.
Oh, thanks, David. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. I appreciate you coming on. I told you should have brought a book so you could hold up to the camera and be like, hey, this is my book. Yeah. But, you didn't do it. So.
And it's available at Amazon.com.
Yes. So
and on our website, herzoghomes.com.
Francis, my producer, sitting over here off the camera. I'm breaking the what do they call it? The fourth wall? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
He will definitely pop a picture of the book onto the spot right where I said you should have held it up, so it'll look like you're holding it up.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe
Thanks.
he can like Photoshop your hands and holding the book up to the camera too,
take care
right?
of that, right?
But anyway, he will post the book. He'll post a link to that so they can buy that on Amazon. Link to Herzog Homes
be great.
website and all that great stuff, so they can reach out to you.
Awesome.
So thanks, Dave, for being here.
Always a pleasure, man.
All right,
always
bud.
enjoyed my time with you.
All right. And thank you for watching the Your Project Shepherd podcast. I will see you next time. Bye-bye. If you found value in this episode of Your Project Shepherd podcast, please consider leaving us a review and sharing it with your friends. That helps us expand our reach and bring this content to more people. Thanks for being here.